Growing up, I knew my parents were there for me. We celebrated family events. They were there for me when I was sick or needed help. As me and my sister grew up, we knew we could count on our parents. We were so proud to be their children. Today, we are there for our parents, to share in the celebration of their grandchildren, or to be there when they are ill or need assistance. They can count on us. And now our parents look to us to take care of them. Hello everyone, welcome to Always There. I'm Michael Wilsker, I'll be your host. We're here to talk about issues that affect seniors and their families. Just as a little background about myself, I own an elder senior care agency called Always Best Care Senior Services. We provide non-medical in-home care for seniors, and we also provide free assisted and independent living placement. I'm very excited about today's show because we're going to be talking about veterans. I love talking about veterans because my father was a veteran in World War II. He served with the Marines in the Pacific, and I've always been involved in talking about military history. I've volunteered for different veterans organizations, and I'm very happy to have as my guest to talk about some benefits that affect and help all of our veterans, or at least those who qualify, is Patty Servais. Patty, why don't you introduce yourself and tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Great. Thank you, Michael. My name is Patty Servais, and I'm the founder of Elder Resource Benefits Consulting, and I'm the president of Servais Consulting Group. And what we do is we go through veterans and surviving spouses' income and military criteria and healthcare needs to see if they qualify for the VA's basic pension with aid and attendance. And it's very important that people understand that benefit because it really can make a difference in them being able to age the way that they want to. The award is quite large. A married veteran can get up to $2,085 per month from the VA in a check that comes every month. A single veteran can have as much as $1,758 a month. A well veteran whose spouse is ill can get up to $1,390 a month. And the surviving spouse of a veteran can get up to $1,130. I misspoke. A well veteran with an ill spouse can get $1,380 a month.
Let me just ask you a question about the surviving spouse. Can you give a little more information about that, how they qualify for the benefit?
Okay. So basically, there are a lot of different criteria that you have to go through. And in order to be considered a veteran for this award, you have to have served at least 90 days on active duty and been honorably discharged, and one of those days during active duty has to have been during a period of war. A surviving spouse is somebody who was married to a veteran who met that criteria at the time of their death.
It's only one day?
One day.
One day?
Yep.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I think if we start with veteran, we can probably build their knowledge a little better. So a veteran, for this particular benefit, and there are many benefits that are offered by the VA, we specialize in this one particular one. We're really lucky here in Massachusetts that each town has veteran services officers who are experts at VA benefits, particularly those benefits that are for our disabled veterans. This benefit is for veterans who they do not have to have been injured in service. Okay, the criteria really is that they served at least 90 days active duty, that at least one of them was during a period of war, and that they were other than dishonorably discharged.
And what periods of war are we talking about?
So we have World War II, Korea, Vietnam, and we have the Gulf War. The Gulf War, funny enough, people don't realize that it started August 2nd, 1990, and goes through to today.
Okay.
You know, people are, if you remember back when we started up again after the World Trade Centers, people were surprised that George Bush didn't have to go to Congress to declare war. And that's because we were still at war.
That's the war.
So anybody who served at least 90 days and was honorably discharged from August 2nd, 1990 through today meets the criteria of service for this pension.
And just so that I remember, I hope I didn't. I heard this when you. I hope that you talked about this, but if you didn't, the vet does not have to have actually been in battle?
No, they don't. So let me go through how the one point where they have to have served out of the country.
Okay.
Not only do they not have to have seen combat, they don't have to have left the United States. If they were World War II veterans, which is from Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, through December 31st, 1946. A lot of people think it's 45. I didn't make a mistake there. It's 46. The year of peacekeeping counts. Anytime, if you were in one day during that time, and at least 90 days in total, you could have been stationed right in Westboro, Massachusetts. Never left the town of Westboro as long as it was for at least 90 days, and one of them was during a period of war. You meet that criteria.
Interesting.
For Korea, same thing. June 27th, 1950, through January 31st, 1955. Don't have to leave the country. Vietnam, I'm going to look because I would hate to get this wrong. August 5th of 1964 through May 7th of 1975. Don't have to have left the country. Could have been right here in Westboro. As long as you meet those criteria that I went through, you're fine. Now, before we admitted that we were in Vietnam, there's a little stub period at the beginning where a lot of folks were over in Vietnam, but we hadn't officially declared war. During that period, from February 28th, 1961, through August 4th of 64, you have to have actually been in Vietnam or off the coast of Vietnam, in the waters of Vietnam, they call it, to have served, because we weren't in an actual action that was recognized at that point. But other than that, there's absolutely no combat requirement, absolutely no requirement to have left the United States.
That's interesting. Now, you were also talking about the Veteran Service Officers. Where are they? Where can you find those? Is that usually in the senior centers?
Actually, most of them are located in Town Hall.
Town Hall.
Yep. So you can call your town hall. This is Massachusetts, that we're so lucky to have these guys. You can call your town hall or look it up on the internet, and they're going to have Veteran Services as one of the offices. Most towns have their own, although some towns now, there might be one officer who covers up to 3 towns, I believe.
Now, since this show is seen in more areas just in Massachusetts, where do people go in other states?
Okay,
kind
in a
of
lot of other
information?
states, it's a county-held position, so there might be 1 per county, or there might be, say, 3 for the entire state. It really depends on the state, because they are state positions. They're not federal positions like being with the Veterans Administration would be, so the state has some say in how many they're going to have. But they're easy to, find. You're going to be able to find it on the internet. You're going to be able to call your town hall or your city hall and say, I'd like to talk to a Veteran Services Officer, and they're going to be able to direct you.
Okay, so what does the benefit cover? How do you qualify for the benefit outside of the fact of
For this benefit.
income? What do you have to provide? What do you have to tell the Veteran Administration? It's something, I'm assuming it's a condition, a physical condition that needs care. Is that correct?
So what I'm going to do is, if you don't mind, I'm going to talk about the criteria in the order that they occur, because it's a stair-step situation. You have to get past the first step before you can get to the second. And if we bounce around among the criteria, our audience isn't going to know how this works.
That's why we're here.
Okay, so the first criteria is service. Obviously, you have to have served in the military during a period of war for at least 1 day, 90 days active, and been other than dishonorably discharged to even get off the starting blocks, all right? And so if you meet that criteria, that's the first step. There's a little half step for our surviving spouses, because how they meet the service criteria is they have to have been married to the veteran at the time of his death for at least 1 year prior to his death, okay? And if you remarry, then there are some loopholes that we can work with. But in general, if you were married to a veteran at the time of his death, he passed away, and you remarried somebody else anytime after November 1st, 1990, then you have to use the service of that second husband. And, people can definitely just give us a call if they have had a remarriage or have any questions on what we're talking about today, and or take a look at our website, which I'm sure will be up on the screen, and we'll be able to help them through their particular situation. So if you get off of that first step and you meet the service criteria, then your next step for basic pension with aid and attendance would be, do you need the aid and attendance of another person? So to need the aid and attendance of another person, it truly is a person, right? We'll talk to people and we'll say, okay, does your mom need any help from anybody? And an answer might be, well, she uses a walker. Walker's not a person, right? So it really is the aid and assistance of another person. So you, with your home care business, when you go into somebody's home to assist them, to help them live there longer, clearly your staff is providing aid and assistance, aid and attendance to a person. And how they might do that is assisting with a shower, even if it's a standby assist, assistance with dressing, assistance with mobility, somebody who needs a hand up to get out of a chair, or somebody who needs somebody to walk beside them, somebody who needs meal preparation, somebody who needs assistance with their medications. Those are all going to be good home care activities of daily living.
And who determines that?
The doctor.
The doctor, and
Yes.
writes up an assessment and provides that to the
They do.
Veterans Administration.
Yeah. So what we do for our clients is we talk to them about their health needs. You'd be surprised how many people will say, oh, my mom is fine. And I'm like, well, she's getting care from Always Best Care, so, you know, there's something going on. So sometimes we do have to peel it out of them. What I like to say is, you know what works best with the VA? The truth. But we have to make sure that truth gets on the piece of paper. And a lot of times people, you know, they want to believe that they're doing so great that they
Right.
don't need any help,
Right.
and they can talk themselves right out of the benefit.
Right.
But I'm like, if you've got a home care person coming to your house, I know that we can get
Right.
there. So if you need the aid and assistance of another person, then you move on to the financial criteria. Are you ready to talk about that, or do you want to go over some of the other two that we talked about first?
No, so you're on you're on stage. Go right ahead.
Okay, so the financial criteria is a two-pronged financial test. It's an income test and an asset test. And the income test is really the driver. So we're going to spend most of our time talking about the income test. And I tell people all the time, this is the most important thing for you to remember about the VA benefit, is the income test. If I were to say to you, what do you think income is? What would you say?
Money I earn.
Yep. And, you know, for most of our seniors, they would say Social Security, pensions, interest income, dividends, maybe rental income from a house, oil well royalties, farm income. You'd be surprised. I'm kind of the
I
national
don't think the person
expert
says
on those.
oil well royalties is going to be coming to you. I would
No,
think.
you'd be surprised, especially with all the fracking that's going on. Yeah,
Okay.
I get
Right,
a lot of
right,
oil well
right,
royalty.
okay.
Yeah, and farm. I get a lot of those too. I'm amazed, right? But anything that would be reportable to the IRS, right, is going to be considered income, even if it's tax-free income. Now, you mentioned income that you've earned. This benefit is for people who are no longer able to sustain gainful employment. So we never want to see any W-2 type income with this pension. So are we pretty clear on what income is?
I'm pretty clear. I hope everybody
I hope
who's
they are too.
watching is pretty clear. And if they don't, they can always call. You know, we can give them that 866 number afterwards. Go ahead.
And the reason I say that this is the most important thing you're going to learn is that is not income for VA purposes. Okay? Income for VA purposes is everything that we just said, but if you met the criteria we just went through of needing the assistance of another person, you get to deduct from your income all of your unreimbursed medical expenses. So for example, if you have $3,000 a month in income, as we, you know, sane people just went through and said it was, and you were paying $2,000 a month for home care, your income for VA purposes, and it's an acronym, a set acronym, IVAP, income VA purposes, is that $3,000 minus the $2,000, or $1,000 is your income for VA purposes. The reason it's the most important thing is I have had many people who come and listen to me give a speech, and then I get a phone call the next day. It was actually after the very first speech I ever gave that I got this phone call, and that's when I started saying in my speech, this is the most important thing you're going to learn. So people who come to my speeches don't ask anymore, but I get this phone call a lot from folks who it's their first time talking to us.
Right.
This gentleman called me and he said, hey, surveys. I was at your speech last night, and I want to know what kind of game you're playing. Because when I called the VA, they told me my dad made too much in income and he was never going to get the benefit. And I said, well, what did you say to the VA? And he said, exactly the example you used in your speech. And I said, okay, and what? So just humor me and tell me what you said. And he goes, I said my dad gets $3,000 a month in income, $36,000 a year, and they told me he had too much in income and he was never going to qualify. So I didn't say anything. I was quiet because that's the kind of person I am. And he said, hello, is anybody there? Are you still there? And I said, yes, I am. I'm waiting for the part where you told them that his assisted living fee was $3,300 a month, so he had negative income of negative $300 every month, or negative $3,600 a year. And he said, I forgot to do that. I gotta go. And he hung up on me. Okay, so it's very important to know that income for VA purposes is a calculation, and that if somebody from the VA asks you, what's your income, it's up to you to remember, oh, I got to minus out that home care cost, or I have to minus out that assisted living cost, right? Because if you're 0 or negative on that income test, that's when you're looking at getting the money, right? I guess folks at home can't see that, it's too small. But what I like to say is, if you're 0 or negative, you've passed the income test with an indication that you're going to get the full benefit. If you're positive, but the number that you're positive is less than the full benefit amount, you're looking at a partial award on the income test. So a surviving spouse who could qualify for as much as $1,130, if she was in our example of home care of $2,000 a month, income of $3,000, so she was left with $1,000 positive, we'd say $1,130 minus $1,000, the VA is going to give her roughly $130 a month. And then at the end of the year, we can submit all of our doctor's bills, all of our other out-of-pocket medical expenses, and the VA will reimburse us until we get that additional $1,000 per month that we left on the table. Any questions on the income test?
No, go ahead. You're doing great.
Okay, so if you've passed the income test, whether with a negative or with a positive, you still have to pass the asset test. And that's our last test. We've already passed service, we've passed the health needs, we've passed income, we have one test left, and it's the asset test. So what counts as an asset? Cash, stocks, bonds, securities. Your primary home and one car do not count against you, but if you've got a vacation home down on the Cape, that counts. Only one primary home doesn't count. A lot of the appeal work that we do are folks who got the benefit, had a house, so they didn't declare it to the VA because they don't have to, and then a few years later, they sell the house. And then a year or two later, they get a letter from the VA saying, hey, we checked with our good friends over at the IRS, and it looks like you sold a house. And it looks like you didn't hold up on your end of the bargain of telling us that you sold the house, and we'd like all of our money back. All right? A lot of these folks think, well, I was told my primary home doesn't count against me. And it doesn't. But once you sell your primary home, what is it? It's not your primary home anymore. Go ask the people who are living there. They'll tell you. It's not your primary home. You don't live here anymore. It's cash. And what's a countable asset for VA benefits? Cash, stocks, bonds, securities. So it's very important to understand it doesn't count against you when you apply if it's your primary home, but if you sell it, it's no longer your home, and whatever asset you received for it counts. If you rent it, it's no longer your primary home. It's a rental property or an investment property, and it counts, right? So that's a very important thing. These are the types of things that we go through with our clients to stop them from getting into trouble with the VA benefit. IRAs, they count as an asset. It's funny, a lot of people think that they don't, but they do. And the distribution from your IRA is income. So we see a lot of folks who have gotten themselves into trouble because they listed it as an asset on their application, but they didn't list the appropriate amount for annual distribution. And so a few years down the road, when they take a big distribution or a big chunk of the money out of their IRA, they get a call from the VA again saying, hey, you had $50,000 more in income last year than what you had originally disclosed. And the people say, no, I didn't. I took a $50,000 withdrawal from my IRA. That wasn't income. Yes, it was.
So when you meet with a potential client, you go over all of this?
Yes.
Tell me what the process is
Okay.
to determine whether or not you're going to accept this and determine, well, this is going to be an application that's going to be accepted.
So what would happen is somebody would give our scheduling center a call or follow the link on our website to access our calendar and select a consultant who works for Elder Resource Benefits Consulting to have a call with. So if they were to call today, well, it's Friday in the summertime, so there might not be any appointments available today. But generally, we start the day with about 10 to 12 free appointments. You can almost always get an appointment for the next day. When you book your appointment online and you put your email address in there, you get an email that says, for your appointment, please have monthly income, interest income, and understanding of your assets, including IRAs. So it's kind of nice to, not book your appointment and expect to have it immediately, to give yourself a day to collect the data. Then during the phone call, we go through basically those criteria that I was telling you about. And at the end of that call, you'll know, yes, you qualify, or when you will qualify. Because we like to say this is not a yes or no award, it's if and when. An important thing to know about our company is we do not sell any financial products or refer people to anyone who does sell financial products.
So let's just talk about that for a second. The VA certifies certain people to be able to provide this information and help with the application, is that correct?
Yes.
And so what other companies outside of the VA service officer are certified to provide this kind of service?
Well, they're called VA accredited agents or service officers. You can get free help from like disabled American veterans, Vietnam veterans, etc. My company, what we do is we charge, our first phone call's free, and then we charge a one-time fee of $800 if you want to move forward with the cash flow analysis.
And is that typical of companies like yourself nationwide, where they do that
I
kind
think
of?
most companies, what they do is they say that they're going to help you for free, but you have to buy one of their financial products, or you have to pay to have money put into a trust. And we have found that often you don't need to put the money into a trust, right? Somebody who, let's say, has $70,000 might be told, oh, because of your advanced age, you can only have $30,000 and you need to put it in a trust. Anybody who meets all the criteria, we can get it for them at $70,000, no problem. Anything under 80, no problem. We can get you the benefit. I don't care what your age is. We get the benefit a lot for folks that have over $80,000 in assets. There's, a myth out there that you can't have more than 80,000. It's actually anything over 80,000 requires further development. It's 4 pieces of paper. It's not an arduous task. I just recently had somebody who filed with $191,000 receive the benefit. Our average time to award is 4 months after you file the application. It took him 9 months, because he had to go through the further development. But the alternative was he had thought he was going to have to move all the assets into a trust and really kind of lock the benefits up so that they wouldn't be available to spend on his mother's care. So he was much happier waiting the 8 months, getting all the money for that time period, because they do pay retroactively, rather than spending money to lock it up and creating that kind of, I don't know what to call it, creating that situation for himself.
Right. Now, I understand that the benefit is tax-free. Is that correct?
It is.
And how is it monitored?
So what happens is the VA interfaces with the IRS, and they look to make sure that your income stays in line with what you originally told them. They look for if you've sold homes or if you've sold stocks and bonds, things like that. And then it's also monitored. They can sometimes call the care provider and say, you know, is Martha still receiving home care from Always Best Care? And if you tell them no, then Martha would get a letter saying, we heard that you're not with Always Best Care. We've stopped your benefit.
Does a family member qualify as a caregiver?
They
can
do.
They get, and is there any difference in benefits for that?
No.
So who qualifies as a qualified caregiver?
Anybody.
Anybody.
You have to be a person.
Okay.
Can't be a walker.
So it could be a daughter, it could be a husband, it could be a friend.
Yes. I get this all the time. Is anybody from home care people, is anybody helping your mother? No. But you told me that she can't get out of bed by herself. Isn't somebody helping her do
Right.
that? Well, me, and I have to say, oh, you're a person. You count. So people think if you're not paying, it doesn't count, but it does. So for example, and I don't want to run out of time.
No, go ahead. We've got some time.
For example, a lot of folks who are in senior housing or who are living at home with their parents, and let's say that if you're a veteran and your monthly income is less than $1,758 a month, maybe all you have is Social Security, and it's $1,200 a month. Well, guess what? $1,758 minus $1,200 is $558 a month that you're supposed to be getting right now, as long as you meet that other criteria. And people say, well, but my daughter's just helping me for free. That's okay. You meet the criteria of, are you getting the aid and assistance of another person? Yes. And you pass the income test because your income is less than $1,758. And of course, you would still need to pass the asset test. But in that case, I mean, that's amazing when that happens, when I find somebody who I can say, you know what, you should be receiving $558 a month. Let's get that going. And then they can take that $558, buy some outside home care, immediately report that back to the VA. Let's say they spent the whole $558 on home care. Then we would repeat that, send that back to the VA. Thanks for giving me the $558. I turned around and I purchased home care with it, and here's the proof that that's what I did, and the VA will up their benefit by $558. Right? So it's really a wonderful thing, especially for low-income veterans.
Here's the final question,
Okay.
if I remember. But I have a hypothetical. Somebody says to me, I'm interested in this benefit program. Should I go to the Service Veterans Office? And I would say to them, I don't think so, because that's not their specialty. They really can't. They'll help you with the application, but you provide the information, you send it out to the VA, and they'll come back and say, well, you don't qualify. Are they better off going to your kind of a company and not go to the not to take anything away from the Veteran Services gentlemen, but are they better off going to an agency such as yours to get that benefit, to determine if they're qualified, and then be confident that they will get the
Well, you're
benefit?
really putting me on the hot seat because
okay.
I'm friends with
Well,
a
we're
lot of
getting there
veteran
quickly.
services officers. But here's the
There's a
situation.
yes or no answer, because I got to leave.
Okay, so
They
if
should go to your
If
company.
you need to have the math done, if you have issues, we're going to spell them out for you for the next, 8-9 years, so that you don't ever get in trouble with your benefit.
Okay, that's what I thought was the answer.
Yeah.
So we're running out of time. I want to thank Patty for being on the show today. If you have any further questions, you can always call me. You can send me an email to alwaysthere@westborotv.org, and I'll be happy to at least get those questions over to Patty so she can get back to you. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. And have a good day.
you.